So in the last class, we were talking about Spring Boot. We saw how to create a Spring Boot application using the Spring IDE STS. Now today, what I'm going to do is here, first of all, I'll show you how to work with one of the important persistence APIs. So already we have the Spring MVC application, right? So let's see how to work with this persistence API, which is called as JPA, Java Persistence API. So we'll be using it in Spring Boot. Okay, yeah. Is anyone aware of this JPA? No? You know, JPA is a ORM based API. It's based on ORM concepts. You'll find that this is part of your EJB specification. It's a sub specification of EJB. Yes, it is one of the sub specifications of EJB. So, you know, it's got some popularity, though EJBs didn't impress. But you'll find that JPA, which was introduced in EJB 3 point, all from EJB 3 onwards, you'll find this JPA. It is part of your EJB specification. It's a sub specification, especially. You can see. It is actually sub specification here. Yes. You know, initially in Java, we didn't have this JPA. Okay, so JPA was purely evolved because of the popularity of Hibernate framework. Yes. Okay. So Java people were very much interested with Hibernate, and they wanted to incorporate this API, sorry, incorporate that object relational mapping concepts here. Now, in Java, okay, they wanted to add that ORM concepts. They wanted to make it a standard in Java, okay, a default standard in Java. So that's the reason why they have included this JPA, Java Persistence API. But the thing is here, they just provided API specification. They didn't provide the implementation for this. What they did is here, they just left the implementation to third-party people. Whoever wants to provide the implementation, they can do that. Yes. Even you can actually implement this JPA if you want. You can implement JPA specification if you want. Yes, you can do that. Anyone can implement this JPA specification. And the people who provide the implementation for this JPA specification, they call as persistence providers. We call them as persistence providers. Yes, you know, one such persistence provider is Hibernate. You got Hibernate, you got OpenJPA, you know, Toplink from Oracle, Kodo. You won't hear them a lot, but Hibernate is heard a lot. Actually, you will find that Hibernate is an independent framework. Okay, so it was introduced before, or it came into existence even before JPA was before JPA came into existence. Yes. Okay. Prior to JPA itself, we had Hibernate, as I told you people. So Java people were impressed with Hibernate, and they decided to incorporate that object relational mapping concepts which are used in Hibernate in Java also. They wanted to make it a standard in Java. Yes, by default they wanted to have this forum based API in Java. So that is where your JPA was introduced. It was evolved. And then Hibernate people, you see, after the introduction of Hibernate, sorry, after the introduction of JPA, Hibernate people provided implementations for JPA specification. Hibernate people, they provided implementations for JPA specification. Okay, yes, they are persistence providers. Not only Hibernate, you have other persistence providers also like OpenJPA, TopLink, Kodo. You need to know this. So that's the reason why I'm talking about it. Yes. In fact, you know, in Hibernate, so we have used annotations, and most of the annotations are JPA annotations itself. But I never pointed it. but you will find that most of the annotations which we have used in Hibernate actually, in fact, they are from JP itself. Is by default Hibernate is implementing them. Where is this? Here. Yeah. Now this annotations at the rate entity table ID column. All these annotations are actually from Hibernate itself. Yes, they are all from Hibernate itself. Sorry, they are JP annotations itself. They are all JP annotations. See, Java extract persistence. That is the package which is related to JPA. Yeah. So if you still didn't understand the relationship between Hibernate and JPA, let me take an example. Already we saw a couple of examples here. It is similar to JDBC and JDBC drivers. Not exactly same, but similar to JDBC and JDBC drivers. So if you want to work with JDBC API, is JDBC API alone enough? JDBC API, is it alone enough? We need JDBC drivers, right? So let's quickly recollect. When I say JDBC drivers, what does that means? When I say JDBC drivers, what does that means?
It is a jar file and it contains the connection details.
Basically, okay, though it's a jar, but still there is something which you need to tell me. So you will find that JDBC, it contains set of classes which implements JDBC drivers. They implement JDBC drivers. That is what JDBC does. JDBC drivers do. They implement JDBC drivers, right? They implement JDBC drivers. Sorry, JDBC API. JDBC drivers are set of classes. JDBC drivers are set of classes which implements JDBC API specification or JDBC API interfaces, I can say. Yes. So, and later on, we have come across another such example, that is Jax RS and Jersey. Jax RS and Jersey. Here, Jax RS is a API, it's a specification, I can say, which is implemented by Jersey framework. It is actually implemented by Jersey framework, right? It's implemented by Jersey framework. Here, Jersey framework is a reference implementation for Jax RS API. Similarly, You can think of Hibernate as a reference implementation for JPA, Java Persistence API. Hibernate is no doubt it's an independent framework. Okay, it exists individually, but apart from that, it also provides the implementation for JPA. It also provides the implementations for JPA. Okay, yes. So if you know Hibernate, I can say that to 90% you're also aware of JPA. Almost everything will be same. In fact, you see, I told you people we're using this JPA annotations itself. Yeah, so everything will be same. So except few differences here. So you'll find that here we use something called as a session component. In JPA we use entity manager, and there is a difference in the methods, few methods. We use get method here. There we use find method. We use save method here to add a record. There we use persist method. Okay. We use delete method here. There we use remove method. In the entity manager you have those methods. Almost exactly same, just 95% same. So finding out those methods won't be a big deal for you people. Next, you have Hibernate query language here. Similarly, you'll find that we got JPQL. Similarly, we got JPQL, Java Persistence Query Language, which is exactly same as HQL, which is also an object-oriented query language, which is used to query the database. It is actually used to query the database, I can say. Yes, I hope you people got it. So, if you want to use JPA, then you'll include Hibernate libraries itself. Okay, if you want to use JPA, you'll include Hibernate libraries itself. That is what we'll do. Okay, so JPA along with JPA libraries, you have to include Hibernate libraries also. Yes. Okay, fine. Now let's try to integrate. Here Spring with JPA. Okay, so let's see how to do that. If you want to use JPA here, what are we supposed to do? Yes, even we'll see Hibernate integration also in Spring Boot. You'll find that here it is greatly simplified. Yes. Now, first of all, let's see JPA. I'll show you. Now, open this form.xml file. Okay, we have Spring Boot application, right? Just a minute. Here is your Spring MVC boot application. So you open this form.xml file. Now here, if you want to use JPA, you need to add the starters which are related to the JPA here. Okay. So in Spring Boot, as I told you people, we'll have starters for everything. We have starters for everything here. So even for the JPA, you got the starters here. So after creating the project, while initially we can select those starters, okay, we saw those options, right? But after creating the project, if I want to add the starters, then what to do? In this case also it is very simple and straightforward. Here you have to just press control space, make sure that the cursor is in this pom.xml file. Okay, make sure that you got that cursor in the pom.xml file. And what you have to do is here, you need to use this edit starters. Okay, once again I'll show you. See, the cursor is in this pom.xml file. Press control space. You should see this edit starters. If you can check this edit starters, use edit starters. Select this edit starters. Yeah, you can save form. Now you see, you got this. Uh, Here, now we want to add that persistence, right? You have SQL here. If you can check this SQL, under the SQL, you should see JPA. JPA. You can check this JPA. Also, you can check this MySQL because we need JDBC drivers, right? We need JDBC drivers. Yes. So just check this MySQL also along with JPA. So these are the two things which you need to select. You won't find Hibernate here because even Spring recommends us to use this JPA, which is built on top of Hibernate itself. That means you're using Hibernate itself. Okay. Yes. Fine. Now I'll click on OK. So what's next? Here, so you'll find that you have this dependencies which should be added, sorry, the starters which should be added here. You see, let me just copy them to the top. Just let me move them to the top of this list here. Yes, here I'll add it. You got this MySQL connector. There is JDBC drivers jar, and also this is most important thing. Spring Boot starter data JPA. Okay, yes, Spring Boot starter JPA. Here you'll find that it adds all the libraries which are needed to work with JPA. It includes Hibernate libraries also. I'll show you. See, you have Java resources here, right? Libraries. You got Maven dependencies. If you check this Maven dependencies in the list, you should see Hibernate core. But we didn't ask Maven to add Hibernate core libraries, right? Hibernate core is the main ORM library which we have used to work with Hibernate framework. sorry, sorry, excuse me. So Hibernate core is a library. sorry, just a minute, please. Yeah, I'm sorry. You see, you got Hibernate core, you got Hibernate JPA. So this is the implementation jar which contains the implementations for the JPA. Okay, say Hibernate Entity Manager. These are all the stuff. This is all the stuff which is added here. So you will find which is related to your JPA. Okay, and Spring ORM is added because we want to integrate Spring with ORM framework. JPA is a ORM based frame API, right? So for integrating Spring and JPA, you need that Spring ORM also, and you have Spring Data JPA. Okay, so this is it does some magic for us. Yes, this is important library. I can say which you will find as part of the Spring Boot. Okay, uh, you got JDBC drivers also, MySQL JDBC drivers. So these are all the things which have been added now. Yes. So you got the JPA support here with Hibernate. Yes. So in fact, feel like you are using Hibernate framework itself here. Okay. Yes. Next, now what we need to do is here we need to configure the data source, the database. Whenever you're working with a database, you need to configure the data source details, right? So how will you do that? Let's see. Just a minute before that. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, sorry. So just give me 1 second. Yeah. Now the Spring Boot does magic for us. Let's do this. Let's see. So it's very important. First of all, we have to configure the data source details. So in regular Spring applications, in regular Spring MVC applications, how did we configure the data source? How did we configure the data source in the regular Spring applications? Yes. So we had a predefined bean class called as driver manager data source, right? Yes. So you see, previously here in this application, we have configured that driver manager data source in the Spring Bean configuration file. In the Spring Bean configuration file, we have configured the driver manager data source. Yes. You see, we did this. So this is how we have configured the data source details. But when it comes to Spring Boot, what you will do? How will you configure the data source details in Spring Boot? In Spring Boot, to configure the data source details, we are going to use this properties file itself. You need to use properties file itself here for that purpose. Okay, just use properties file. You see, in this properties file, the same application properties file, this is the source for all the configurations for you people. By default, this will be the source for all the configurations. Yeah. So I will configure this details. You see, spring dot data source dot URL jdbc colon mysql colon double slash localhost colon 3306 slash test. So this is a predefined property. Okay, when you're using Spring Data or Spring JPA, you have to configure the data source details this way. Okay, so especially in Spring Boot applications, you'll do this. So driver class is there. Driver class spring dot data source dot driver class name. So org dot gjd dot mm dot mysql dot driver. Next, the username here. You can use equal to or colon, both works. Okay, root, and the password would be root. Okay, we got the data source configurations here. Okay, so this is the first thing which you need to do. Just a second, please. Okay, we are done. Next, we are all set. I can say that now we are all set to start working with JPA here. We are all set to start. We can now use JPA. You don't have to configure anything else here. No, nothing. That's enough. Okay. This looks very easy, right? So that's all. Just add the database configuration details here, database details here. That's what you need to do at most. Yeah. You know, let's create a repository which helps us to interact with the database server to perform this DB operations. Yeah. Um, Let me just define new class here, sorry, new package here, where I will add this field. New. Um, Now what I want to do is, all of you, listen to me carefully. I want to interact with that product table. Okay. You see, I would like to work with this product table. I want to perform the DB operations. Okay. So what to do here? So in this case, normally we'll create a repository, and for each DB operation, we will add a method, right? I guess, yes, we did implement the repository here previously. See, in our regular Spring MVC applications, I did that, where we didn't use Spring Boot. So we have created this methods, you see, to add the product records, to fetch the records, you see, we did this. Okay, but now we can take the help of Spring Data. Spring Data, it helps us to perform this DB operations, the regular DB operations, without having to write any code. Without having to write any code, we can perform DB operations here. Yes, that is possible. Let's see. how to do that. So for that, first of all, what you need to do is, yes, all of you check this carefully. I will define a class. Okay, I'll define a class. Sorry, not a class, interface. You have to define an interface. You see, interface. Call it as app.data. I'm creating a package called as data.repository. JPA data repository. This is the package structure. Um, I'll define a class called as iProducts repository. Already we have a product repository interface. So I'm defining this interface here now. iProduct repository interface. Click on finish. Now you make this interface implements. Sorry. Now this is the interface. Now what to do is here, you make this interface extends a predefined interface here. We got a predefined interface. We have to make this class, sorry, make this interface extends a predefined interface. What is it? Let's see. Extends CRUD repository interface. CRUD repository interface. This is a convenience interface for us. So now here it takes two parameters. First of all, you want to create a repository to fetch which class records product records, right? You can specify that product class name here. You see, make sure that you specify that product class name. That is the first thing which you'll see, which you'll do. Next, this product entity, we have the product entity, right? From the, oh, we don't have product entity class. I'm sorry. Copy that product entity class from the other package which you got here. You see, entity class, which is mapped to the table. The same entity class which you have used in Hibernate. Here also we are going to use the same entity class. You see, I'm creating a package called as entity, and I'll paste it here. So this product class is going to be different. So we have two product classes. Have you noticed it? One which is mapped to the tables, which has got that ORM mapping, this one, and one which is a plain product class, which is not mapped, basically which we use for order processing. Okay, yeah. So we won't use that product class. We'll use this class, entity class, which is mapped to the table. Okay, this is the same product entity class which I've used in Hibernate. I'm going to use it here in JP also. It works because, as I told you people, all these annotations are related to JP itself. In fact, yes, they're all JP annotations itself, so they will work here. Okay, so make sure that you import that product entity class from that entity package. You see, you have two product classes. Import entity. Next, see, we have this identifier property, right? Which is mapped to the primary key. You got identifier property, which is mapped to the primary key. So this identifier property type, it is what type? Those details you need to specify them. The identifier property, it's what type? Yes. Here it is integer type. So you need to specify those details. Okay. Yes. You have to specify that identifier details. So you can just specify that integer type here. Okay. is specified to entity, right? And I recommend you people to always make this entity classes implements serializable interface. Okay, it's a good practice. Make sure that you make this entity classes implements serializable interface, not only in JP and Hibernate, also everywhere, not only in Spring Boot applications. So because it helps you people to transmit this object state across the network, to save this object state to the files for everything. This is going to be very helpful. Okay, you don't have to write any logic, just make this class implement serializable, that's it. So that this object can be easily transmitted across the network. Yes. Okay, now mainly you need to concentrate on this interface now. CRUD repository is from Spring Data module, so which is specially introduced in Spring Boot. You'll find that Spring Data module is there, so which helps you people to deal with this persistence. Okay, Spring Data module helps you people to deal with persistence here. See, now this way, to this interface, you will add that entity class details, with which entity you want to work, and also that identifier property details. I mean, the identifier property is what type. So these are the couple of details which you need to add here. Okay, yes, these are the couple of details which you need to add. Okay, what's next? Do we need to implement this interface? Generally, what you do is you will implement this interface. Okay, and in fact, you have to add some methods to this interface to perform the DB operations, right? For each DB operation, generally, you will add a method to this interface. That is a regular traditional approach, what we do. But here, you know what? You don't have to implement this interface. You can leave it to the framework. Yes, listen to me carefully. We'll just define this interface. Implementing this interface is taken care by the framework itself. Implementing this interface is actually taken care by the framework itself. So framework will be implementing it. Yes, dynamically it implements this interface. And you know, in the CRUD repository, you got methods for each DB operation. In the CRUD repository interface supplied by the framework, you'll find that for each DB operation, you got a method which will be implemented by the framework. So, you know, the methods for each DB operation will be inherited by this product repository from the CRUD repository itself. From the CRUD repository itself, it's going to inherit that methods. Yes. Okay. So now what you need to do is all you need to do is just start using this interface. Yeah, I mean, start using this repository, you can say. Yeah. Is it true? Yes, absolutely true. You can start using it. Yes, let's do that. What I'll do here, I will create a controller. I'll call it as product data controller. Annotate it with controller annotation. Okay, so we'll make it a controller. And let's add a method which will fetch all the records from the product table and display that table records using a JSP. That is what we'll do. Okay, so say this method get this method name, let's say I'll call it as get all products, which handles this request. This method here, now it will take the help this controllers method With the help of that repository which we have created now, we'll interact with the database server. We'll fetch all the records from the product table and we'll add them. We'll share them with the JSP, the view component. I can say how it does that through the model and view object, or we have another object. What is it? Model object. We have two different options to do that, right? Yes, we'll use model object here. So first of all, add that product repository as a dependency here. You see, I product repository from JPA data package. We have two repositories here. Please import it from JPA data package. Yeah. So we want the framework to inject this dependency. So just add auto-wired. You know that the rest of the things will be taken care. Here, now let's map a URL to this method. Request mapping. Say all products. This is the URL. Let's say, and then here we'll use that repository. Okay, what are the methods defined in the repository? If you want to fetch all the records, you can use this find all method. Find all method. Okay, just call this find all method. Next, it returns an iterable object. You can take that iterable object. You get straight away list of product records. Okay, you have to transform that iterable object to list type. You can do that, not a problem. Yes. Next, now this controller is supposed to share the product records with the view component. This controller is supposed to share the product records with the view component here. How it does that? Either it can use model and view object, or it can also use model object here. You have two options. Then to use model object, you need to add it as a parameter. Then model and view object, we will create it explicitly. If it is a model object, you have to take it from the framework. Yes, you have to add it as a parameter. Remember, always this model object should be the last parameter. Now to this model object, we'll add the response data. So I'll call it as products list. So while adding that list to this model object, we'll give the name as products list here. That's it. Okay. Yes. So at last, you'll return the view component name. Let's say view component is products. This is the view name. The JSP name is products. That's it. We are done. So next, we need to create this JSP, products JSP here. So in the views folder, I'm creating a JSP called as products JSP. Already we got the code to display the product records. Earlier we have written it, right? So, but we have to do slight changes here. We need JSTL also to iterate through that list. This is what we are talking about. Description is there. Now you can check this. You see, this JSP, when it is invoked, it creates a table. You see, it adds a row with the column headings, and then it will iterate through the products list using this for each loop. And then at last, okay, you see, we are reading the data from that objects and we'll add it to the table here. So for each product object which is fetched from that list, we'll create a row. We'll create a row. That is what we'll do. Okay. Okay. Check this once. Okay. Now let's try to deploy this application on the server. It's loading. Okay. Now take this URL and go to this Chrome. Let's place a request in the Chrome here. Place the URL here. You place a request for that products. This is the URL, right? Yeah. After both using the same URL, just a minute. For all products, that is the URL, right? I'm sorry. All products. All products. We didn't get anything. Let's check once. Uh, what's the problem? We don't have any errors here, first of all. Oh, the name also is wrong. I'm sorry. Here we gave it as products list, right? In the JSP page, you see when reading the records, we just give it as products. It should be products list. The list name is products list. The controller, when it is adding the products list to the model object, it gave the name as products list. So the JSP also should read that products list using the same name. Okay. Yes. So that is the problem. Let's place the request again. Yeah. See, we got the records. So this way we can use JPA here. It looks like magic, right? We didn't write any code to fetch the records. Just we defined an interface called as iProduct repository, and straight away we are using that repository interface in the controller. Where is the implementation class? We didn't implement it. Who is implementing it? The framework. You see, this find all method, I'm using it from the repository itself, product repository. But did we define find all method here in the in this interface? Did we define this method find all in this interface? We didn't do that. Then from where we got this method find all method? What you understood? Yes, this is very important. So from where we got that find all method? Yes. Can someone answer this question? What do people think? From where we got this method find all? From you see, we're using this repository interface reference itself here, product repository. You see, it is iProduct repository, but we don't have any methods. From where we got it? You got this method from the CRUD repository interface. CRUD repository interface. That method is actually defined in the CRUD repository interface. And from where we got this interface? From where we got this interface? Is it predefined or user defined? The CRUD repository interface. Is it predefined or user defined? It's predefined. We got it from Spring Data. Okay, we got it from Spring Data. Spring Data is a special module in Spring Boot here. You see, one of the libraries which provides this interface. And Spring Data itself will take care of implementing this interface. Okay, it will take care of implementing this interface. You don't have to explicitly implement this interface also. So that is one of the advantages of using Spring Data. So you see, this is most redundant stuff which you'll be doing always. Am I right? Don't you think fetching the records, updating the records, deleting the records, irrespective of what type of records they are, okay, whether it is product supplier, customers, employees, no matter what type of records, you will perform this common operations. That's the reason why framework people, they have provided this code which helps us to write this redundant code for the most common DB operations. Now you see, we got the support from the framework. It helps us to avoid writing this redundant code for this most common DB operations, right? For the CRUD operations especially. You see that interface name is CRUD repository. The interface name is CRUD repository, you see, because it is providing the methods for the CRUD operations. For the most common DB operations, we call them as CRUD operations, you see, you got methods. You got the methods here, yes. I hope this is clear for everyone. Now, how do you know what methods you got in this CRUD repository? Okay, if I ask you people to find out what methods you have in the repository, what you will do in this interface, CRUD repository interface. If I ask you people to find out what methods you have, what you will do? You can refer to the API. Okay, so let's see. Just refer to the API. What is the problem? So just search for it. CRUD repository interface. You can just type it. Spring Data CRUD repository interface. So you got the documentation. Spring Data 2.3. So this is the documentation provided by Spring people. If you can check this, these are the methods which you got count. You see, you can count the number of records. You can delete an object. You can delete all the objects. You can delete the object by ID. Delete by ID. You can search whether a particular record is existing or not. Exists by ID. Find all. Just now we have used it, which will fetch all the records by default. Find all by ID. That means you can pass set of IDs and fetch those records for that set of IDs. Find by ID. If you want to fetch a single record, then use find by ID. You got save method to save a record. Save all. If you have to save multiple records, multiple product objects, let's say in our example, you have product objects. If you want to save multiple product entity objects, you'll use this method. See, this is a standard API. I want you people to play around with these methods. Just try to use those methods. I mean, you don't have to implement them. The framework will take care of implementing them. So you have to just make use of them. That's all. Yes. So this way, you see, you got the support from the framework. Now you don't have to worry about writing the most redundant stuff to perform the CRUD operations also, or only managing database connections and all. See, now we are a step ahead. We don't have to worry about performing this CRUD operations also. Yes. And for suppose, let's say for your requirements, there will be application specific requirements, right? For your requirements, let's say what if there is no method, then what you will do? Let's say for your requirements, you don't have a method. You got the question right? Yes, it's very simple. In that case, what you will do, you can define your own methods also. What is the problem in that? You can define your own method. You see, I'll stop this. Now I will define a class. First of all, you add the method here. For example, I would like to fetch the records based on a criteria. What is it? The product ID should be greater than 110, and the product name should start with T or S, whatever it is. So let's define a method. What is the problem? So which returns a list of product objects. Sorry, sorry. Fetch. Now find all products by ID name. So this is my method. So we should take the product ID as well as the name. Okay, yes, the name pattern, whatever we want. Now we got our own method now. So in this case, okay, we have this interface. Now we have to implement this interface. You can implement this interface. So what you do, let's define a class. Let's say product repository. Make this class implements I product repository. So first of all, you add this method. What about the other methods? So let's make this class an abstract. Okay, I'll make it an abstract. So I don't want to implement the other methods. Let's see whether it works or not. So I made it abstract here because we don't want to implement other methods. Now here sorry, we're using JPA as I told the people. So if you're working with JPA, then what you'll do? So what are we supposed to do here in that case? You know, in this case, let's refer to this documentation first. Okay, I'll show you something here. What it says. Let's see. In order to add the custom methods, okay, what to do? You have to follow certain rules. So what are the rules which you need to follow? Okay, what are the rules which you need to follow here? Yes. So let's refer to the documentation once. I'll show you. Spring data CRUD repository documentation. Let's refer to this. Reference documentation is there. Here, now we have added this custom method, right? What you can do is, in this case, we don't have to implement this method also. Okay, we have an option. You can actually refer to this documentation. You'll find that you can use some extensions here. Apart from that, I'll show you this. I saw this app here. I just wanted to show it with you. Found it here. Yeah, if you can check this, you have to follow certain rules. For example, now let's try to implement our own interface. If you can check this, you see this is the example for that. So they are adding their own methods for that. Okay, you got something called as user repository. They are adding their own user methods here. Similarly, what you will do is, okay, first of all, let's scrap the idea of implementing the class. Okay, defining the class. Generally, you will follow this procedure, right? So you have to define a class. But the thing is, if you define this class, what is the problem? I want you people to understand what is the problem here. The problem is that, again, your framework, it won't implement it. Okay, if it is not an abstract method, what happens when you are implementing this interface? You have to also implement all the methods which you got from the CRUD repository also. Framework has to implement them, right? Not we. Then what you will do? So this is not the good idea to implement this class on your own. So instead, what you will do is here, you have to leave the implementation part to the framework. So first approach. Now, on top of this method, you can pass the query, or you can supply the query which you want your framework to execute. Okay, you can supply the query which you want your framework to execute here. Let's say in this case, I want the framework to execute this query. Select P from, I'm writing a query, which is, you can think of it as HQL or GPQL query, both, where P dot ID equal to or greater than, say, ID and P dot name like colon name. That's it. Okay. Yes. Here you'll find that you have to map this bind parameters. We got this bind parameters here. If you can check this, let's say PID. The bind parameter names, I call them as PID P name. Here that method parameter names also should be same. Make sure that the method parameter names also are same. PID P name. So this values which you got here, so the parameter values, they have to be assigned to this bind parameters. So this is the query which needs to be executed, right? So just map them. Param, use this annotation param. Okay, from data repository, see? Yes, param. And you can configure that parameter name, bind parameter name, PID. And at the rate param, P name. That's it. So this way you can give the query to the framework, and framework now it will appropriately execute the query here for us. It will appropriately execute the query for us. Yes. Okay. Now, I mean, it implements this method now. The framework is going to implement the method. In that method, it will use this query. It will execute this query. Okay. Yes. Let's check this. We'll test it. This time, I'll use this method. So we are supplying the query to the framework, which it needs to execute. So instead of using this find all method, predefined method, I'll use our method, which will fetch the records based on that requirement, based on the name and price. You see, find all products by name, ID. I'll pass that ID 110. Let's say the name should start with T percentile. Let's say I'll pass this values as well. That's it. We're done. We're calling that method. You see, again, we are not implementing it, but we are leaving it to the framework. But to the framework, we are providing the query which it has to execute to implement this method. Yes. So let's try to deploy this application on the server. Okay, now we'll test it. So let's place a request here. Name of white label page. To display this records also, I'll show you how to display the records. Okay. Yes, definitely. I'll show you people how to display the records. You'll see that. I mean, to display the error details. You won't get any error details, right? Always we see white label error, but internally what is the problem, you won't find it. So I'll show you how to tackle with this, how to deal with it. As of now, I don't see any problems here. We are passing by this. I'll go in. Is there any issue here? Let me check once. Run this code again. Okay. Yeah, still getting the same problem. So we don't have any issues here. Okay. So let me fix this and show you people in the next session. I'll do one thing. I'll stop it here today. And one more thing. I'm not available tomorrow. Tomorrow there won't be any class. No classes tomorrow. We'll meet again day after tomorrow itself. Okay. Yeah. So tomorrow, because of personal issue, I won't be available. I'm not available completely today and tomorrow. Yeah. So we'll meet day after tomorrow at our regular time. Okay. So I'll share this project code. You can just check this once. Meanwhile, the next session I'll say I'll fix for this. Change it to stream. Maybe it should work. Okay. Yeah. That's it. Thank you all. Bye bye.